So we did a survey a while back to see what the common consensus was about what we were going to cover on our roundtable this month. And overwhelmingly, it was BD and how to build pipeline. The economy sucks. We have tariffs. We have a war. We have the perfect storm of difficulty happening for small business owners out there trying to build business. So today we put together an expert panel of guests who are going to help us walk through how they would either build their business or advise you on how to build your business.
Welcome to the Key Hire Small Business Podcast, hosted by Corey Harlock, creator of Key Hire Solutions, where small business owners learn how to build stronger teams, simplify growth, and scale confidently. Got feedback or topic ideas? Send us a text. If you're listening on a handheld device, tap the link in the show notes to message the show. Subscribe or follow on your favorite platform, and follow Key Hire Solutions on social media for more insights and updates between episodes. To learn more about how Key Hire can help scale your business, visit keyhire.solutions. Connect with Corey on LinkedIn through the link in the show notes. Mention you're a listener, and he'll accept your request. And now, on with the show. Here's your host, Corey Harlock.
So before we get started, we sent out a little case study. I got to apologize for my outer space here. I'm not in my normal office. I tried to do the fake background. It's bad, but we'll push through. So we sent out a mini case study to our guests, who I will get to in just a second. And we have a fictitious manufacturing company called Precision Works, and I just want to walk you through some background so everyone kind of understands what we're talking about. So Precision Works Manufacturing, they're an industrial B2B manufacturer. They deal in industrial services. They have about $8 million in revenue, 42 employees. They're located in the US, pick your market. Their buyer is an operations leader, plant manager, procurement teams, and business owners. Sales model, they're very relationship driven, long tail sales cycle. Historically, they're referral heavy. Their current challenge, leaders are becoming inconsistent, referrals are slowing, and the owner is unsure whether the problem is sales, marketing, messaging, targeting, follow-up, or all or any combination of the above. Precision Works has grown steadily over the past decade, most through referrals, as we mentioned, repeat customers, local relationships, and a few large accounts. The current state of the business, they have a basic website. It explains what they do, but it does not generate leads. They have a LinkedIn page that's updated inconsistently, a CRM, but it's not always maintained. Stop me if you've heard that before. A few past customers who could become repeat buyers, but there's no formal nurturing process. They have a sales team that's mostly reacts to inbound interest or referrals. No clear content strategy. No defined lead generation targets, no consistent follow-up cadence, and no clear answers as to why should a buyer choose us now. So the owner's concern, and this is what we're going to talk about. The owner is starting to feel like the business is slumping, and they don't feel like it's failing, but they definitely feel like the old ways of generating leads aren't working the way they used to, and they're seeing that lead generation or those leads starting to dwindle. There's your background. That's what we're going to be talking about. Now let's get to who's going to be talking about this stuff. We have Tara Wagner. Tara was a guest on episode 87, and she talked about the Instagram business card strategy. It was a really popular episode. We got really good feedback on Tara. She is also the owner of Tara Wagner Coaching. She works exclusively with small businesses. We have Nader Safinio from Black Ribbit. He was on episode 109, and Nader talked about the intersection of brand strategy, design thinking, and the modern workplace. And then we have new to the show and longtime friend Neil Benedict from Silverbrick Sales Solutions. He's a Sandler trained sales coach, and this is his first appearance on the podcast. Matt, let's welcome them all on. Everyone, thanks for joining us on the show. We'll give you a chance to tell us how to get in touch with you at the end, but let's jump in here because people are really struggling right now let's just start with this. What have you guys experienced in the market, and what are you seeing when you're talking to small business owners? And Neil, we'll start with you because you're the newbie.
Yeah, Corey, I wanted to say I don't know how good of friends we could possibly be if this is the first time I'm being invited on your podcast, but I'll still be as gracious as I can be while we're here. Take it up with you after we're finished. Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yes. So yeah, I think your case study demonstrates an extreme amount of relevance in today's market. I work a lot with small to medium-sized businesses that are almost always trying to figure out how to grow revenue. And because my background is mostly sales and sales leadership, I spend a lot of my energy and time trying to figure out that equation as well. And so I think this is very relevant to most of the customers that I deal with, not only at the current moment, but historically. And I think things haven't changed too dramatically as of late. They've just gotten a bit more intense. I think to your point early in the podcast, you've identified some real headwinds in the market. And hence, again, this is a very relevant case study for us to be talking about at this moment, because I do think companies are still struggling and trying to figure out new markets and trying to figure out how to adjust to the headwinds that they're facing.
Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in on that?
Go ahead, Tara.
I've really seen a wide variety. I've seen a lot of people who are definitely feeling the pinch. They're feeling the shifts and the changes. And I'm also seeing people that are like, we're doing great. Yeah. We're doing fantastic. Weird, right? And I think the difference, I've noticed the difference is in how they're approaching it. If it's like, oh crap, everything's changing, am I going into panic mode or am I going into listening mode? Because the businesses that are always going to rise to the top are the ones that are just listening to their audience. They're talking to them. They're asking questions. Where are they at? What are they needing? And always in business, we're here to serve the audience. We're here to serve our ideal client or audience. And so if we just understand where they're at, and that's a constant conversation, and we don't get complacent in that conversation, then really our marketing, our sales, our branding, those things should be ever evolving. And it shouldn't feel like, oh crap, all these changes just happened in the last 6 months, or 12 months or whatever it might be. You've been making changes all along the way because you're responding to that audience feedback all along the way. And the people that I'm seeing doing that, they're not hurting. They're still feeling the changes. It's still like things are moving and they're moving fast, but they're doing great. Their revenue is still doing great. And it's just because they're responding instead of reacting.
Smart. Okay. And Nader, what are your thoughts?
I echo a lot of the sentiments from both Neil and Tara. One thing that I have, there's definitely a discrepancy. One thing that seems to be consistent across the board is the ones who are doing well, the ones who are still profitable and generating revenue are, like Tara said, they're able to pivot. It's whether it's already baked into their strategy to enable them to be flexible, or if it's something that they're just good at doing because they're listening and they're paying attention and they can flex quickly. One thing that remains true is that they're still staying the course. They're not doing anything huge. They're not doing like big changes or making big investments. The ones who are suffering, like this case study would suggest, and so on, which that thing is written down to a T with so many I've spoken to and worked with myself. But one thing that I've noticed all year, in fact, is yes, it's true that everyone is chasing, from my research and my observations, AI, ops, and fast ROI. On the other hand,
and that's the one thing I didn't say in this perfect storm. There's this huge surge of AI.
Yeah. On the other hand, there's also this sentiment from vendors like ourselves who are saying things like, I don't know if it's indifference or fear or uncertainty or just indecisiveness, but people aren't moving. Everybody wants speed, but no one can make a decision. These kinds of sort of paradoxes. And at the same time, my observation is that it's none of those. It's actually avoidance. It's a non-committal kind of a behavior. I'm noticing, myself included, that there's a lot of overwhelm. There's so much just over saturation of information, of different channels, of where to place my empathy. You know, you got your house, you got your kids' friends, you got your wife, you got your wife's friends, you got your neighbor's dog, the trash guy, the this, the that, the utilities, you got the war I should actually care about, the tourism from the World Cup. Like, it's just endless. And then I walk in and I'm like, buy my thing too. And they're like, get the hell out of here. You know, it's just, so like, there's this air of like non-commitment that it doesn't mean they're ignorant or they don't get it. It's just like, you need to, you know, and I know the people in this room get it, need to be very compassionate and listen as to how to remove the stress and reduce the overwhelm.
And the one thing I wanted to ask, and we'll try to keep this really brief, are you guys seeing industries that aren't struggling as much, or certain industries feeling it harder than others?
Mm-hmm. Of course. I work with a lot of local service-based businesses. They're not feeling it in the same way. I mean, they'll feel changes, but they're going to be the last people to lose their jobs to AI because they're, you know, fixing electrical wire or they're giving a massage or things like that. Service-based businesses are traditionally going to be more stable.
Neil, are you seeing specific industries that are faring better than others?
Yeah, I would echo Tara's thoughts on that. I mean, anybody who's providing utilities, anyone who's doing power generation services, anyone who's doing, you know, relatively consistent commercial construction, all of those people are doing pretty well at this point, particularly in Houston. I can't speak for Washington where Tara is, but particularly here in Houston. So I would say, yes, she's right on in that regard. Those companies are doing really well. And the people that are struggling are the ones that can't clearly articulate and identify a very differentiated approach to whatever it is they're doing. And that can be in software, it can be in consulting services, it can be across the board. But yeah, I agree. The technical companies are doing pretty well right now that are actually delivering a service.
And Nader, do you have anything different there?
No, I would just emphasize the word service becomes nebulous in this context because I'm a service-based company, and people offering soft services like consulting and so on are the ones that are, let's call it more challenged. But the trades, you know, are doing well. The ones that Tara listed I'm experiencing the same thing. And I honestly echo what Neil said. It's really the differentiator that becomes the laser pointed, very pointed. Do you know how you're different? Can you answer why anyone would buy from you instead of anyone else?
And it's funny because we had Bill Connerly, who's our economist who comes on every now and again, and he was on April 6th, and the war had just kind of started, and he said, if it ends in less than 3 months, we're back in business. 3 to 6 months, we're going to feel a bit of a blip. More than 6 months, all signs point to recession. And I don't know, I feel like we got to be over 6 months at this point, or we got to be close to it. Aren't we? April? We're in June. Maybe we're like 4 or 5 months. So we're teetering on that 6 month prediction he made. But okay, let's get into this. So we look at our company, Precision Works Manufacturing, TM, and I'm just curious to know each of you. Just kind of, we'll keep it brief and then we can build on it. But where do you start? What's your, when you go into this company? And what's interesting is all three of you have a very different approach. So this will be super interesting for anyone listening, for me as well, and maybe for each of you to say, "Oh, I never thought it. That's an interesting approach," or "That's kind of cool." So interested to know, Tara, ladies first. We'll let you go first.
Thank you. Honestly, when I read this, the very first question I thought was, where in the world is the leadership team and why is the CEO stressing about this? When I look at an $8 million company, they should have a sales and marketing director. They should have somebody overseeing that sales team, making sure that sales team is performing, having clear KPIs. It shouldn't have gotten to a place where it feels like the business is on fire. And the CEO should not be the one having to stress about it. The CEO should be the leader, not the doer, not the, oh my gosh, what's going on LinkedIn? I have no idea what's going on my LinkedIn, and I'm not an $8 million business. There's like, when you get to that stage of business, there's no way the CEO can have all of this on their brain and not lose their ever loving mind. So my first thing would be, show me your team. Like, I want to see your org chart. I want to see who's doing what. And I want to know, do we have underperformers on this team, or do we just have missing leadership? Somebody who needs to step in and make sure that the people who are being paid to do the sales and marketing are doing the sales and marketing.
Okay. Very cool. Nader, where would you start?
I would start with observation. I would want to know, just go in and ask a whole bunch of questions. I want to talk to leadership, like Tara said. I want to talk to middle management. I want to talk to the other employees. If it's 42 employees, is that what it was? 42 employees?
Yeah.
In a company making 8 something, what would like the average, this, Corey, it's like, what are they spending? Like 40%, 30% on labor costs?
Their payroll costs. I would say that's heavy for an $8 million a year company.
Exactly. I mean, even if you just divide like the 35%, that's like not even 70 grand per person if you actually divided it by the whole 42. So like, what is that implying? Is there an actual C-suite? 8 million with a real C-suite is not typical. So, what is that looking like? I just want to go see what's up very, very openly, and, give me a day, 2 days, just to go ask questions and walk around the office.
Okay. Neil, what's your approach?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a sales consultant, we carry, a certain set of tools in our bag, and we carry a hammer, and everything looks like a nail. Anyone who has a sales problem, we start wanting to hit it with that big hammer. I think in this case, it's really not. I think I try to avoid making too many assumptions here, because I'm not certain this is a sales problem quite yet based on what we know. I think it's probably more of a clarity and a consistency problem, because they've clearly never had to answer the why us, why right now, because they've been basically living off referrals. And again, referrals are part of selling, don't get me wrong. So it's okay to have referrals, but when you're building your business model or your sales model off of referrals, and that referral engine slows down, it exposes every question in your sales organization, because they've never had to answer, those really deep questions for customers, because, referrals don't typically ask as many questions, right? They get referred based on a trusted relationship, and hence they're not as complicated to win. So I think, again, there's probably more of I would agree with both Tara and Nader here that, we need to investigate this more. But again, I wouldn't immediately think this is necessarily just a sales problem.
So let's take the leap and say we have a sales manager, we have a marketing coordinator, because what do we say, $8 million a year? So you probably have a sales manager, probably not a director or a VP. You might have someone you call a director, but they're probably truly a manager at this point. You can't commit to a full marketing person. So you probably have a marketing coordinator who's running your socials and maybe some paid ads, but also maybe is doing benefits or payroll or another job, is the EA for the business owner, and trying to do social at the same time. And trying to think, and then maybe it's you got to look at your manufacturing side as well. Maybe it's a quality or an OTD, on-time delivery issue. So I specifically pulled those out because we have someone who specializes in culture, someone who specializes in Tara, you talked a lot about social before last time you were on, and then Neil in sales. So maybe, take one of those that lines up with what you do, and talk about what your next steps are. We know who's in there. So we have an ops manager, we have a sales manager, we have a marketing coordinator. How would you coordinate those three pieces maybe to drive more awareness or get out of the referral cycle? Go ahead.
So,
Nader, you don't need to raise your hand.
Okay. I'm just going to jump. I don't like talking over people. So, the teacher. So again, I'm most interested. The way that I approach these things is, at the end of the day, everything is connected. There's an interconnectedness within the company, between departments. All the invisible stuff. You can talk about morale. You can talk about, I don't know how old this company is. That wasn't written. If it's a manufacturing company, is the place falling apart? I mean, how old is it?
Yeah, so let's say it's 10 years old, and it's a good modern company, and their product is sound.
So even so, I want to go speak to the managers that you just described, the ops, the marketing, and so on. I want to talk to each of them separately. I'm going to ask them very similar questions. Nothing leading, how long have you been here? What's changed since you've been here? What's been working recently? What's not working? What do you need to do your job better? What do you think is not taking place that's, affecting your job? How do you feel about your own team, et cetera, et cetera? And then I would talk to their team as well. Neil said maybe it's not a sales problem. What the list of issues that is listed there, know this, know that, describes a very lack of a clarity problem. What are we even doing here? Why are we here? What is the point of all this? To whom are we selling, and why should they care? I want these questions to be answered first before I get into anything that has to do with systems, processes, or any sort of concrete recommendations or outputs. Because if we go ahead and jump into creating SOPs and protocols and, all the if this, then that's on top of a broken or non-existent foundation, you're just putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. So it's just a waste of time. And more than that, I want to make sure that, is it truly founder led? This is Tara's domain. Like, is what happens when the founder's not in the room, when the CEO's not in the room? Are priorities shifting when the leadership, so-called, is not there? How does that impact everyone's decision-making abilities or ability to execute?
So Tara, he put it on a tee for you. You might as well continue that. He just talked about, what happens when the founder's there. And then we have our marketing coordinator and our sales manager as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big glaring thing that jumps out at me is leadership, because, you said at $8 million, they may not have or may not need a marketing director, but they do need somebody leading this, and the CEO can't lead everything. What the CEO needs to be leading is, what is the direction? What is the brand? What are we trying to do? And then do we have the team underneath us? Are we leading that team to do their job and to figure everything out? I don't want to see my owners in the weeds like this when they're at that level. Being in the weeds like that, you're in that up to $500,000, $750,000, and then your brain starts to just fry out. You have to start stepping back and start giving things away. And absolutely, that's my big thing is I want to see owners being able to step out of their zone of excellence and their zone of competency, and definitely their zone of incompetency, and step into what's called their zone of genius, really understanding. And this is where I go back to that org chart. What are the roles and responsibilities, and what should the CEO actually be doing? And what are the other pieces, and who is doing those things? And do we have the right people in the right seats? And is that owner leading, or are they kind of running to catch up, micromanaging everything, inserting themselves back into stuff, taking over stuff, going in 10 different directions? Do they have a self-leadership problem where they don't even know what they want and where they want to go? So they're going in different directions that's pulling the team apart, and the team is confused, and so they're not taking action. There's so many different variables that I see that can happen, but that quote, the bottleneck is always at the top. It's 100% true in ways that we often can't see it, for the same reason we can't see the nose on our own face. We're just going to be too close to it.
And Neil, before I get to you, I mean, Tara, you bring up a really good point, and I talk about this all the time. When someone starts a business, they hire their neighbor, they hire their neighbor's cousin, they hire their friend, and everyone jumps in, and everyone has fingers in every pie, and everyone helps where they're needed. Then the revenues go up. if they do a good job, the revenues take off. But the capabilities, the capacity, the experience of the leaders stop at a point. And that's where you get that kind of, the revenues are up and the experience stays down here, and you get that experience capacity gap in the business. And that's where this business is. They were going, everything is great, and they were all kind of doing their own thing. They didn't have a lot of systems in place, because when you start a business, the last thing you think is, we got to have great systems. You just go out and sell and make it, and people ask for stuff and you're like, we can do that. And then you find your lane, right? And so I think in this case study, that might be where these people are. It's kind of, they don't have the experts or those experienced professional leaders in the business yet. And I think they're teetering on needing that. So I'll just kind of throw that in, Neil, and I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very valid point. When I go into situations like this, one of the things I often realize is that when I ask the sales team or even the senior leadership in the company to define who their customers are, why their customers buy from them, how they're different from their competitors, most of the time they think they know, but they almost never do, right? They never can really clearly articulate it. And so one of the things, the thing that I would do initially, I'd reach out to the top 20 customers, the people that continue to buy from them on a regular basis, and I'd schedule conversations and I'd talk to them about why they're buying from the company, what keeps them buying from the company, and what makes the company different, right? I'd want to juxtapose that with what the leadership and the sales team think, so that I could start to understand from a standpoint of why they're in the situation that they're in, because I care about what the internal team thinks, but I care more about what their customers think at the end of the day.
Smart. Yeah. And then what else could you do with that info, though? As you start pulling this back from those clients, you could be using this for your online marketing, your advertising, your socials. They're going to give you terminology that resonates, right?
Yep, absolutely.
100%. I would even say, along with that, reach out to 20 people that the sales team was not able to close and interview them and find out why. Why did they choose somebody else? What was missing? If it was a 7 out of 10, what would have made it a 10? Really understanding why people are considering you, but then saying no, can give you some really big insight into anything. It could be like, I didn't like the salesperson. I didn't like their attitude. Or it could be this little thing over here was missing, or this person, had a better pricing or something. It could be any number of things, but having that understanding of what's making people say no, not just what's keeping them on board, can be painful, but very insightful in terms of what's not working.
And what's interesting, just another insight, is one of the things we had under what's the current state is they're not correctly using CRM. And Neil, I know you fight the CRM battle with every client you go into, but documenting conversations and understanding and just being able to go into your own CRM and pull reports and pull verbiage out of your own CRM, I bet you would see some trends in there. So there's that's an important documentation step that a lot of people overlook at first because we're too busy. And it can slow you down, but at times like these, being able to go get historical data, how important would that be?
Yep.
Data gives direction.
Yeah. Nader, what are your thoughts on what Neil and Tara had to say?
Yeah, honestly, not a lot of disagreement here. I want to understand the holistic nature of what's going on. Tara brought up the customer. Both of you brought up the customers. When we go into our client's world, if we're talking about a 60-person company, even a 40 to 50-person company or more, we're running 40 interviews in the first 2 weeks. We're talking to customers, employees, and everyone in between, because that's how you start. You get a lay of the land through the eyes of the people who are living it, and the greatest insights come from the discrepancies. 3 people in apparently the same level or same tier are telling 3 very different stories, or they're telling the same story, and that brings up other insights. Okay, if you're all telling the same story and things are still dropping, what about the customer side? What are they saying? And so on. It's just understanding how all the pieces fit together before doing anything. How do you fix an engine if you don't look at it?
Right. And then you have the owner. A lot of what you're talking about is that inside out approach going in. And then, even Neil, your sales specific approach was an inside out approach going in to fix it. Mm-hmm. So let's get a little more tactical in terms of, okay, we've done our analysis. We see what's going on. Now what we're moving into the advice section of the conversation. If I'm a business owner, I'm thinking, okay, this is great. Like, I got to look inside. I got to go talk to some old clients. I got to talk to some deals we missed out. I got to talk to my people. Then what do I do? Once I get that information, how can I use that information tactically to build my sales, or at least start building a pipeline?
So we identify, again, in our case, if you're talking about the culture brand system and the culture brand model, we're identifying what the intended brand is first. What is the intended experience you want everyone to have, whether they're buying from you or working for you? That should be the same experience. When you are at your absolute best, everyone should ultimately tell the same story. If everyone is telling different stories about you, then we have other things to worry about. But then once you have that understanding of, like, what do you want people to feel? What do you want people to say? What do you want the stories to be when you are at your absolute best? Then you can start reverse engineering that into very applicable operational tools, principles, drivers, or otherwise, that now start defining who are the right people that you want to approach. What is your ideal client profile? Will they be able to experience that thing you want them to experience when you're at your best? If the answer is no, sometimes there are circumstances and situations in place or variables in place that don't allow someone to ever experience that with you. So those become either lower down the tier of potential customers or not at all. And I think we need to identify exactly who our target is so we can get real specific about, again, what both Neil and Tara said. What pains are we solving for them? What needs are we solving for them? If this is manufacturing, if it's about tools in manufacturing, we all know manufacturing is historically a price war. So, like, why would anyone buy from us beyond pricing? The CRM is probably the most important thing in the manufacturing space. You need to start knowing when these people's birthdays are, when their kids' birthdays are. You got to start, like, hitting them up before that. Really get on their radar as someone who gives a crap outside of just getting their business. Because they're going to I know I have a lot of colleagues and clients in this space. They're losing clients to pricing like that. Mm-hmm. Because if they don't answer the phone right away, they're off to the next place. It doesn't matter if they've been there for 15 years. They're like, I needed it yesterday. You didn't answer the phone. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to pick that up? No?
Well, from a sales standpoint, I think there are some critical aspects of things that you need in an organization to be successful. And I think Nader identified quite a few of them, right? He identified, who's your ideal customer. You need to really understand that. And again, these are in no sequence of order, so they're probably out of a place a little bit. But you need to define who your ideal customer is. You need to be able to target those customers in a systematic and consistent way. You need to have sales-ready messaging, which is really what Nader is talking about. What's your messaging to the marketplace that you can communicate to those customers so that they understand how they're going to be different by doing business with you, right? What problems you're going to solve for them. And then you need to have a very effective interaction or engagement process all the way from prospecting to closing the opportunities that's well understood in your organization. It's well tracked. And we know in certain situations when that process breaks down, so we can quickly go in and adjust it to make sure that it stays consistent over time. And so you need all those components working together effectively. And I think logically you can figure out how to sequence them, because I can't prospect if I don't know who my ideal customer is and I don't have a target list of those customers that I can manage, right? So I think the sequence becomes pretty clear, but you need those key aspects in your organization so that your sales team can start to execute a plan. And even if that plan is very high level and isn't very sophisticated, having a really simple plan that's well executed is much better than not having a plan at all, right? And so I think that's really what we need to think about going in here and how we'd structure it.
And Neil, I think you even alluded to being able to measure each part of the process when you said if something's not working, you need to know when it's not working and make a change, and you can't do that if you're not measuring it.
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah. Tara?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of what you're saying. There's foundations there that have to be shored up. We have to make sure that they're solid before we even go and start to bring anybody in. So getting all of the messaging, figuring out who we're targeting, making sure that we have the follow-up systems, all of that, definitely. To take it a little bit more granular, I would also want to look at that data that you just collected, and I would look to see, are there certain niches that we are doing better in than others that we can deliver better to? Are there certain clients that we just find it easier to close? And then where have we found our last clients? Has it just been outreach? Has it been, we're talking about referrals, but somebody had to come to you first to be able to refer somebody else to you. Go back and just look at where your successes have been and what can we do to duplicate those successes, but potentially with a twist or in a new way or with new branding or messaging, so that we're making sure we're doing what we know has worked in the past, but we're doing it in a way that it's going to work in the present. So if anything has changed in the marketplace, if, whatever it might be, we have to make sure that we're modernizing everything. We're not just like sticking to what we've always done and that's what we're always going to do. But we do want to look to see historically what's worked and how can we emphasize that again and how can we maximize it. And then the other thing I would say is ask your clients what they need in that sales process. In other words, when they're finding you and they're making decision to work with you, are they going to LinkedIn? Are they going to Google Ads or Google reviews? Are they where are they going to make the decision about you? And where are they going when they are seeking you out? So are you finding that they're just going to Google and they're just Googling, whatever terms? Are they talking to other people? Are they going to organizations? Are they networking? Like where do they go when they want the solution that your business solves? And how can you show up there? Because there you have high intent audiences. You're not trying to track somebody down who's maybe happy or, the problem's not even on their radar yet. They're happy with who's solving it or they don't think they need to solve it. You're going to you're showing up where people are actively searching for you. They already have their credit cards out. They're already ready to make a purchase. Make sure you show up there. And then whatever they need to help them decide. So if they're going to LinkedIn or they want to jump on a sales call or whatever it is, you have that built into your marketing funnel so that whatever they need is there and you're not wasting any time on something that you don't need. Like I keep coming back to, you had mentioned, LinkedIn and it's inconsistent. And I'm like, me in social media, does it need to be very consistent? Is their audience actually going to LinkedIn? Do they care how recent their last post was? Or do they want to go get a baseline of understanding about the business and be able to hop out? Are they going to actually follow and engage with you there? It's just like we talked about last time I was here when we were talking about Instagram. So many people think they need to be on Instagram when most people are not seeking out their businesses on Instagram. Or most businesses, they're going to other avenues. And so really understanding, again, what is that client journey or that customer journey? Where are they going to seek you out? What are they using to verify that they want to work with you? And making sure that everything that you need, everywhere you need to be showing up is well polished.
Perfect. I think that puts a nice tidy bow on it. It's interesting that each of you come from a very different background. I keep finding this when I talk to all these one of the amazing things about having this podcast is you get to talk to amazing people, but it always ends up coming back to, you guys all went back to a holistic view. You got to go inside the business. No one said we got to get in there and start pounding the streets and make sure the guys are making 50 calls a day and doing all this. Each one of you said, let's figure it out. Let's get the data. Let's talk to the people. Let's make sure we're aligned. Let's build a plan and use all that information to build the right sales plan and make sure we're calling on the right people and to have the right messaging if we're going to go marketing, and then make sure our people are saying the same thing that our messaging is saying and that we're saying to our clients, and then our clients are going to say to the next person and training them. And so I guess the overall message is don't do nothing. Don't just get stuck in and say it's coming around, it's going to get fixed. I truly believe things are going to be a little different, right? The pendulum's swinging. I don't think it's going to come back to where it was. You have to do something, but knee-jerk reaction, to use Neil's analogy, to start just hammering every nail that pops up is probably, you might get a win here or there, but you're not future-proofing your business for the things that are coming. And so these steps that you guys have outlined, which I think are really valuable, like do some internal work here, spend some time and figure it out. And what's the expression? When the student is ready, the master will appear, right? Mm-hmm. And so once you do that work inside, your target client will appear. The person that needs your business will appear. The way to sell your business will appear. That's what I'm taking away from this conversation anyway. Mm-hmm. So
I want to
thank you guys.
Add something to that. Just say hopefully a sentiment of solace, because what we're saying is often misinterpreted, although rightly so, as very operationally straining or very time consuming.
100%.
And, it's going to take too long or whatever. We don't have the time. We don't want to make these changes.
That's why I said don't knee-jerk this,
and
right?
that's usually where the resistance comes from. And again, it's that non-committal, I don't want to add another thing to my plate, blah, 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 which again is understandable. But I want to be very mindful of the fact that it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be operationally straining nor financially straining. Do it iteratively. Do one thing at a time. Start just looking around. Start asking some questions. You can do it internally. Start with your own managers. Then start with your customers. Do surveys instead of interviews. They take less operational strain. So there's methodologies that don't require, for half your team to go on pause for 3, 4, or 5 weeks. You can do this iteratively. And, I believe Tara and Neil would agree, unless you don't. But I think it's something that...
Oh, God, I hope they don't. I need one of you guys to disagree with someone.
I think it needs to be reminded, though, Corey. The thing is...
No, it's a great point.
It's just... What I'm noticing, the resistance that I notice is that it's this fear of operational strain, because again,
and business owners they take action.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When the chips are down, they act.
Yeah.
And we're telling them to act, but in a very different way.
Part of your action.
It's not going out and
it's like
making more calls.
Exactly. It's part of the action. If I have a problem with my engine, I'm going to get a diagnostic done on it first. I'm not just going to start replacing parts, because that's going to cost me more time and money in the long run than to just take some time and actually figure out what is actually wrong and then sit down and fix the actual problem. I have seen so many people waste time and money and energy and burn out and even lose their business because they're afraid of the data. They won't sit down and look at KPIs, and they fix everything and they do everything when it was just like one little thing over tweak, here that needed an adjustment. They needed to hire somebody. They needed to fire somebody. They needed to clean up their messaging. Like it was one thing, but instead they're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on ads and then get frustrated and say, well, ads don't work for me. Well, your ads can't work if this thing's still broken over.
Well, it's important. And it's just important to realize that most of us believe that all the activity that we're doing is equally valuable. They don't realize that that most of the work they're doing, 20% of it's driving 80% of the customers and driving 80% of the results. And if they could just sit down and look at that data and realize it for a minute, most companies don't need thousands of customers, right? They need a subset of a small group of customers that really love what they do, are really consistent, and that will grow with the company, right? Most of us feel in sales, for example, we want to start going like this. When things slow down, we want to just go and grab everything. And that's the exact wrong approach, right? The right approach is to ruthlessly prioritize what it is you're doing so that you are, again, extremely valuable to a small subset of people. And that will allow you to focus where you need to focus.
Awesome. Great way to wrap it up. So we'll just go around the horn here. Let us know if people are listening and they want to reach out or learn more about you, where we can reach you. We'll go Brady Bunch here. We'll start with Nader and then go Tara and then go Neil.
Sure. Nader Safina. You can Google me or find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there, or just go to blackribbit.com, check out our work, and reach out to me from there.
Very cool. Tara?
Awesome. Tara Wagner. You can find me at breakthroughboss.us. I especially work with people who are local service-based, personal or home-based services. And if there's something where you're coming and you're like, I don't even know what my problem is, we have an assessment on the website. Just look for the button, take a quiz, and it will help you define exactly what the problem is in the business.
Awesome.
Neil Benedict. Best place to reach out to me is LinkedIn. I am an open networker. I accept basically all connections, and happy to help in any way that I can with just a question or anything related to sales. I love talking sales, whether you're a client or whether you're just someone who has general questions. So reach out on LinkedIn, Neil Benedict.
Awesome. You guys are great. Thank you. Appreciate you. So there you go. Super insightful. Personally, I didn't expect the conversation to take that route, and I'm really happy it did, because it shows you, when you get a cross section of professionals and ask them, how do you fix a problem? Ultimately, the right thing to do, and it was proven out here, is all three of them went to let's look inside and get our data, get our facts, get the information we need so we can make good, sound decisions. I get it. It's hard out there right now, and some people are struggling and saying, yeah, I'm going to go talk to my employees when I could be going out on sales calls. I get it. It's tough, and you got to find that balance. But if you have time and you have the resources to dig in, times they are a-changing. It's not going to be like it was. It hasn't been since 2020. Things are different, and they're continuing to change at a rapid rate, and we have to adjust. We have to stay with it and be agile, change with the times, or we will die. So hopefully you got some use out of this conversation. I know I did. We're very fortunate to have Neil, Tara, and Nader with us. Great show. My name is Corey Harlock. I've been your host. And until next time, stop grinding, start growing.